Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 8th webcast. We're very excited today. This is a great topic, sort of stimulated by last week's topic, which was all about collecting David Webb and sort of the different pillars, which got us to thinking about the really iconic, colorful stones of David Webb. We're so lucky to have Rachel Garrahan here with us today. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Hello, Levi. Very nice to be here. Hello, everyone. It's great. I'm very pleased to be chatting David Webb with you.
Thank you so much, all the way from London. Rachel is the Jewellery and Watch Director of British Vogue. She was also the recipient of the GEM Awards for Media Excellence earlier in January. You want to tell us a little bit about your background and what it is you do?
Well, before I was at Vogue, I was living in the US. I was living in LA and New York for 11 years. And that's where I guess I fell in love with David Webb and all its beautiful, bright colours, because I'm a sucker for rainbows.
Same. I love your outfit today. That's perfect. It's the greatest spectrum. Perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had a lot of fun with David Webb over the years. Like we've seen you in Vegas, we've seen you at the store.
That's right.
A lot of good moments.
Yeah.
So just a little housekeeping for everyone tuning in. There, you should see a chat box at the bottom of your screen. You can interact with other people who are watching, so please feel free to interact there. And then there's also a Q&A box so that over the course of the conversation, if you have any questions, you can submit. And at the end of the conversation, then we'll get to some audience Q&A. So with that said, I'm going to dive right in, introduce myself a little bit. I'm Levi Higgs. I'm the archivist at David Webb. I always just sort of like to couch it a little bit to say, you know, here I am in the archives and we have so many different stories, so many different narratives that we can tell. And that's been the best part about having this the webcast series, so that we can sort of explore them all digitally and share them. So today we're going to start with sort of the 1950s, and that will sort of bring us through each arc of the different stones that we're looking at. You know, the 1950s, it's a very sort of typical look at styling and how jewelry was made. You just sort of have one stone, maybe. I don't know. How do you react to these covers?
I mean, they're very polite, ladylike images, aren't they?
Yes, polite is a great way to put them. I mean, they're beautiful images, don't get me wrong, but you just sort of have this, you know, very lovely one sapphire ring, the emerald earrings, a lot of gold. But then, you know, here we've got turquoise and coral, sort of these great 1950s stones that do have lives later on. I want to read a quote here from David Webb that he said in 1966. Coral has a whole new pizzazz about it. It's timely, gay, young, and it's not precious, and it's a becoming color with the pale lipsticks. So I pulled these because, you know, you've got the coral earrings, the coral ring. I think you can see her nail is colored as well, and the lipsticks. It's all sort of going together in this very like monochrome look with the pink outfit. And then you see the hint of the turquoise eyeshadow there and this great turquoise earring.
Yeah, and the yellow gold is picked out in the top. I mean, good, strong editorial whenever you're doing it is about strong combinations of color and contrast. And right. You know, David Webb jewelry is made for that, I think. Even at this stage, it stands out on the page.
Absolutely. So sort of the first look that we're going to have is all about turquoise, and turquoise is such a beautiful, rich color. You sort of think of it more commonly in these like singular, you know, narratives of jewelry, like just the turquoise and the diamonds. These beautiful necklaces here sort of embody that, especially Lana Turner here. This is a film from 1966, Madam X. And she's got this amazing turquoise suite that's just sort of diamonds and turquoise, the ring, the earrings, the necklace. A great look, but just sort of one colorway.
And it's great the way those turquoise cabochons, even with just the diamonds, contrast with the faceted stones, doesn't it? I mean, it really stands out. But here, you really start to get exciting contrasts in color, mixing it with the sapphires. That's a famous necklace, that, isn't it, Levi?
Yes, this is a necklace that was designed for Doris Duke. I think she had it specially made. She brought in the stones, and this is what David Webb sort of put together. And I love the Vogue cover here. There's a Burt Stern image because, like, you can see this fabulous brooch. It's got the sapphires and the turquoise. Love the bringing in the turquoise color with the typography there. But
When,
you know,
what year was this? Was this
oh
picture?
gosh, I think it's 1962 if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
I think you're right.
Um, and the pink sort of shawl thing, it's all about contrast now. Like we're sort
Mhm.
of emerging into the 60s, and we get to play with color in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, still ladylike, isn't she? But it's a little less restrained. It's kind of a bit more fun, and she looks like she's having a good time.
Exactly. And that sort of, lets us look at jewelry that we're producing today. Obviously, it's still the DNA of David Webb, still the same designs, but we get to really see the bold, contrasted colors, which really, sing with these, the turquoise. You've got a little bit of enamel there with the white sections between the beads, and of course, I'd put it on the orange background just for a little more pop. But over
Well,
here, you've
it always looks great with the emeralds, doesn't it? It really
looks great with emeralds, and here you have the enamel sort of playing a role as well to have a little contrast. Yeah, turquoise
Did
is.
David Webb, did he mix emerald and turquoise back in the day?
He did, and we'll sort of see that as we move through a little bit. But this is a necklace that we recently produced, and it's got the turquoise cabochons, but it's also embellished with the emeralds and the sapphires. We've got a few other examples as we flip through too. But that shot,
I've tried on that very necklace, and I love it.
me too. The shot of it on her head, I think that's from Vogue Arabia. It's very evocative of the 60s too. You see a lot of like editorial looking back at these really iconic editorial shots from the 60s and 70s. And I feel like that's very much in that vibe.
Yeah.
This other necklace, I would say turquoise is sort of the main stone here. At least it goes with Allison Janney's dress from the Golden Globes. But then you've got all these other great mixes of color in there. So you've got the rubies and the emeralds, diamonds.
I mean, it would be a beautiful necklace if it was just turquoise, but the fact that you've mixed it with emerald and rubies and all that gold texturing and everything, it makes it so much more, so much stronger. And it makes it really stand out, doesn't it, on the red carpet? I mean, that's just like magazine editorial. You want something that really pops.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How do you go about picking things? If you're, do you think about color first? Do you think about design? How do you approach?
I mean, it depends. Sometimes it will be the dress that dictates the jewelry, but I mean, obviously, with what I do, then I love the jewelry to choose the jewelry first.
Right.
I wore some great lapis earrings recently, and I'm trying to think what. Oh yes, with a blue and turquoise dress, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
To mix the two.
I love playing with tonality like that, like the lapis and turquoise going together, like that sort of thing, dark blue, light blue. Here it is. This is a crescent necklace that was in Jewellery magazine. Here we've got a little bit of the crescent earrings can be all these different sort of, we call them flavors, if you will, just a little fun word there. But like the coral, the turquoise, it could be any different combination. You've got the tonal thing going on here with light coral, medium coral, and then more of like a oxblood-ish coral back there too.
And is that mixed turquoise as well?
Yep, I think so. I see like a little bit lighter here and then a little bit darker there. So it's sort of whatever we have on hand, we can pair it or make it the same, or whatever a client wants.
Yeah.
This is sort of a good transition to coral here. And I do want to read our statement about coral, which is sort of an important thing that I know people really think about these days, and I want to put it out there. So our statement is, David Webb, New York firmly believes in the preservation of precious corals and the maintenance of healthy marine ecosystems. The company works closely with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service alongside notable marine biologists to confirm that all of the house's coral meets and exceeds all available standards for sustainability, really important. David Webb, New York does not acquire or work with any new growth coral. We primarily use coral harvested prior to the signing of the CITES in 1979 and supplement with repurposed 18th and 19th century material, such as old bead necklaces bought through the secondary market. I think that's a really important point to make because like David Webb himself collected so many different things. We'll talk about Jade a little bit later, but like we still have this impressive stock of material that we can go through in our stone room so that we're not hurting the environment, but we still get to, sort of play with this wonderful material.
In the vault.
Yes, the vault. There's an archive of like paper material. There's also like a stone room archive, which is amazing.
Oh my gosh, how fun. I think coral is one of those hard stones that gave David Webb so much to work with. So he could embrace the colour to show off his forms, and also, I mean, all that incredible carving he does there on the animal bracelet and on the
Yes.
brooch.
Yes, exactly. And so this is an ad, I think, from the mid 60s. I love the like wet stones that the coral just pops on these black stones. But then this brooch, you know, you mentioned sort of his notoriety with the material. This brooch was a part of his winning collection of jewelry from 1964 with the Cody Award. Most people think, I mean, most of the jewelry that won at that time was animal pieces, but there were some other things like this Maltese cross. This was an article that came out in Financial Times all about coral. We were lucky enough to sort of lead the pack there with this great image. You know, all the fluting is really sumptuous, like really beautiful shapes, pairing really well with enamel. You mentioned emerald as well. That's a great pop in the middle. Lauren Hutton, she's got these carved fluted cuffs. One's rock crystal, one is sort of a pinkish coral. Once again, the pairing with the enamel is just fabulous.
Yeah, and I mean, Lauren Hutton looks so chic there.
Yeah.
And it's that real American fashion style coming through, isn't it, at that point? I feel with that. Is it a John Galliano's gown?
I'm not sure about the gown. I know it's an Avedon shot, I think.
Yeah, I think it might be. And back in the 50s and early 60s, it was, fashion was more influenced at that point still by Europe. And then during the 60s, you know, with women's rights emerging, and then also an American style emerging, these kind of clean lines and bold colours and so on, that Lauren Hutton sums up that for me, you know, with
Absolutely.
just these those two cuffs with that dress.
Yep. And this, I mean, this is another cover that she's sort of leading here with all these great coral pieces just stacked up on her arm. I think each one of these has the emeralds used as the eyes or set in the head. The earring here, you can sort of just see it behind your hand. It has an emerald on the bottom there. And then I wanted to show sort of a close-up of this carved animal piece that we have now, this great snake piece.
Yeah. And do you still do all that carving in-house?
We do. And we have these amazing schematics that sort of show like the top, the side, every view of a piece, so that you know how these scales need to be carved, how the tail needs to wrap around, so that it all sort of turns out the same way that it's always been done.
Yeah, so it fits together. And do you have many carvers in the workshop, or are there just a couple of specialists? How does it?
It's a couple specialists. It's either one or two. I'm not entirely sure, but everyone sort of has their different specialty, whether you're a stone setter, a polisher. We've got carvers for sure.
The other thing I think is great here is the contrast between the coral and the black enamel.
Yeah.
And gold, it all sort of comes together to make a really impactful piece.
Definitely. It's almost like graphic design in a way, like these hard outlines with the enamel that sort of work to show off each section. These are fun. These are images from our book that came out in 2013, The Quintessential American Jeweler. You've got all these different sort of elements represented here. You've got the fluting again, the enamel contrasted within the enamel, the different colors, different stones popping here. I love that ring.
Yeah, I know, me too. You can't help but smile at these rings. I mean, they're just so joyful.
Very much so. This is a little more sort of tonal in a way, like with the black enamel, but then it mirrors perfectly to this shot with her outfit is very coral colored, and she's wearing all that great coral jewelry.
Do you know anything about that, when that image was taken?
It's definitely the 60s. I should have committed it more to memory. I can't tell you anything more than that, but it's fabulous. That's all I've got for you. But I love it.
But still, it's really powerful, isn't it? And the tricky thing with jewelry, because it is smaller scale compared to fashion, is how do you make it stand out on the page? But they've really done that in that shot.
This you're sort of asking earlier about the different stone combinations, and I feel like coral just works with all these different, like you can sort of go opposites with the the sapphires there and the coral on the tassel necklace, but it also completely pops with emeralds, whether you've got jade or emeralds. I love the jeweled belt. That's from the 60s as well. There's another shot with Marissa Mell, and she's got a jeweled belt on too.
And what, especially with that sort of beige, not beige, I don't know what it is. What do you call that? Taupe
maybe
or something?
Brown. I mean,
yeah, brown. Sort of, I mean, it's great to have that contrast and the contrast of those colours with against the yellow gold. I mean, it's fabulous.
Yep. And that can become, not only is it a belt, but it can become like a long necklace and then a shorter necklace and bracelets, like all these different combinations. This coral piece is amazing. It's probably like as big as my hand, and it's just this intense pendant that you can also sort of wear two different ways, long or short. Really intricately carved, like these cloud motifs, really sort of flowing, beautiful piece there.
Yeah, it's amazing. So is that a contemporary piece of coral? Do you know?
I'm not sure about
cut recently. I know it would have been old.
The piece was made within the last 10 years. It's not an antique David Webb piece, but it's old coral.
Yeah.
It's just sort of
would he, you know, how today you mix colors so much, would David Webb have mixed them so intensely? What do you mean, would he have done that necklace with the coral and the sapphire or lapis?
Yeah, I think he would have, because originally this design here with the tassel, that was all just beaded with emeralds. But you do see color play over here with these sorts of things, or, you know, like with the crescent earrings that we saw earlier, he would do them in different colorways. So in the way that we sort of experiment with color now, we feel like we're doing it in the spirit that he did it when he was alive. So it's all sort of carrying through this vein of like vibrant color experimentation at every moment. You know, maybe we'll come across something like this amazing carved emerald and we feel like, oh, this has a place here, and then we'll sort of build the color story around things like that. Maybe we already had that coral piece as well, who knows, but you just sort of, like in the stone room, it's like this laboratory for stones. You can try things out, put them on the wax trays, see how it works, and just play. I mean, that's the best part.
It's great play. I'd love to do that.
Oh yeah, we enjoy it. You can't not talk about jade. I feel like jade is such an iconic stone for David Webb, and a great colorway too, just like this intense rich green.
I mean, he really helped put jade on the map, didn't he, in the 70s?
Absolutely. This is an ad from the early 70s, and it's just all these different brooches that can also be pendants. I love the butterfly in the middle. I mean, those diamonds that make up the body of the butterflies are insane. This shot, this is Diane von Furstenberg and her husband. It was used for a cover of Town and Country in the 70s. And she's wearing this necklace that has this great carved jade at the bottom, but then also like these big, like rough ruby sections.
Rubies.
What's that?
Enormous rubies.
Enormous rubies. They're sort of like hexagonal, rough ruby cuts. But the necklace on the other side, that's sort of a contemporary piece that we're producing now, but like that's antique jade through and through. All these pieces are antique jade that we still have the stock of in the stone room.
He was a great collector of jade, wasn't he?
He was
delve into antique shops and
exactly. I feel like he really had the pulse on what people wanted in the early 70s, because he started collecting these things when he could get them in whole caches, as you say, from antique shops or at auction or whatever. And we have a huge drawer of just jade pieces, and that's where this piece for this necklace came from. You know, on the bottom here, this great sort of scrolly plaque. And then the necklace that Diane von Furstenberg was wearing, it eventually it didn't sell, like after this editorial shoot, so it was taken apart, and we have the original carved jade here still in our stock that's just waiting to be reused sometime. So there it is.
Put to good use. I mean, she looks so powerful there, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, she looks naked. I don't know if she is, but she
might have been. I mean, it's hard to tell.
Power, you know.
It's very sultry.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. And just seeing the drawings too of like how he was thinking and conceptualizing these pieces with the jade, like very powerful colors with the contrast of the green and red. Here's this piece executed on the side.
Wasn't there an interesting way he worked with those antique pieces? Didn't he design them?
Well, here you can see, like, we have to be really careful with how we cast the gold sections to sort of fit perfectly into the jade, because obviously you're not going to alter an antique piece of jade. You just want to show it off as like this perfect piece that's been integrated into a bracelet or a necklace or whatever. So like all of the form here is original, but then you have to make slight concessions to like fit it in perfectly. These are old antique belt buckles that have been turned into bracelets in a similar way. So everything sort of has to loop in and fit into like how the piece was originally carved, hundreds of years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, such a great, this necklace, this is in our book as well, is right here. She's wearing like a few layered necklaces, all jade, and a great earring.
Because this shot is from around, is it around the time of Nixon's trip to China?
I think
it's a little mania in fashion.
I feel like it's a little earlier. I think this is like 1969 maybe, or 71 or something. It's right in that time period. And you're right, David Webb was like preempting sort of America's fascination with China during that big trip that Nixon took. You were mentioning like how David Webb came up with the designs, and like the fact that this is his own handwork. Like he worked on this very specific pad of paper. We sort of know how he drew and designed, and he worked in pencil. So we very much know that David Webb did this. He would have acquired this antique piece of jade, which you see in the middle of this turtle. He'd like set it on the paper, sketch around it. That's why it's sort of blank in the center. And then he would just design the piece as it would actually fit. So like when we take this turtle and put it right on the drawing, it fits exactly.
Oh, well, I mean, it's so great that you have all of that in the archive.
Right.
So inspiring.
We're so lucky. And here too, this is an earring that we make often, and we can sort of find these jade pieces, these teardrop jade pieces that fit right in here. This is a Richard Avedon shot. The title of this article was "The Bold Jewel," so
wow.
There you go. That's the theme.
Again, it's all contrast, isn't it? I mean, that red nail and her red top.
Yep.
And the red lip by the looks of it with the green. It's amazing.
And we can't not talk about like contemporary fans of Jade. This is Amy Adams, of course. She wears jade often. And then here, of course, you've got the contrast with the pink background, the sapphire, and the carved jade.
Perfect stone for her, isn't it?
Perfect stone for her, especially. I mean, look at this. I think this is a Tom Ford dress during the promotion of Nocturnal Animals when she was in that. Her eyes, the earrings, like it's all this perfect palette. So we also can't not talk about rock crystal. I know that's one of your favorite stones.
I do love rock crystal. I mean, he's so good with color and he's so good with no color. I mean, rock crystal is such an incredible stone for being able to sculpt with it, and it's made for Webb, who was like an architect with stones. So yeah, it lends itself beautifully. I mean, just like with that shot before, we saw Lauren Hutton with the fluted coral and the rock crystal. It's just the combination together is fantastic.
That's sort of an interesting point too, to think about like all the different carving techniques and how they can be utilized just as well for all these different stones. I mean, coral looks so beautiful fluted, but so does rock crystal. I mean, look at all these fluted pieces here that they just like shimmer and make the light sort of do all these different dances. And
I mean, it has that same light reflecting qualities of diamonds, but obviously you can do everything at such a big scale, which is perfect for David Webb's jewellery.
It's sort of funny you mentioned like it in place of diamonds, because that was sort of the impetus for these rock crystal pieces to be created. There's this great newspaper article we have in the archive that talks about like David Webb and Gloria Vanderbilt were at a party chatting. She was wearing a 1920s rock crystal pendant that she had gotten in the West Village at some antique store, and they were lamenting the vulgarity of big diamonds. It's the 70s and it's sort of the economic time, and I just love the phrase, the vulgarity of big diamonds. But they were talking about how great rock crystal is as an alternative to, like, a white alternative to diamonds.
Yeah.
And I feel like you get, especially at David Webb, you get these huge, voluminous, beautiful pieces that can, be worn in the evening, and they go with all these different colors, but there's sort of the absence of color in and of itself.
Yeah, very chic, I think, and it's beautiful there. I've never seen that bracelet mixed with the gold before, but it's
Right here, sort of the line bracelet.
Great combination. It's a great contrast again.
Yeah, I love that.
All of that decoration on the gold, and then these very simple rock crystal shapes.
Mm-hmm. And let me just comment, this is Cher's hand. This is a Richard Avedon shot of Cher's hand with the rings and the nails. So good. And just to show, like, it can go with color too. Like, you can have, you can wear a black dress and wear rock crystal and be totally chic, but you can also wear a red dress or whatever. And it just kind of takes on whatever life you need it to take on. I think.
That's right. It's perfectly versatile, isn't it?
Yes. So, like, we've talked about these different really important stones for David Webb and sort of explored within those little nexuses. But speaking about combinations of stones and combinations of color is also really important to David Webb. And I feel like this is a great piece to sort of talk about how that all works together. We call these the Brocade Bracelets. I wanted to show the original design here. It was originally thought of and conceptualized as just sort of a gold link bracelet with all these sort of interlocking links, very flexible. But we thought, in the spirit of David Webb, playing with colors, sort of re-embellishing something, we thought we could jazz them up with different stones. So here you've got turquoise down the middle, combinations of aquamarine and amethyst on the side, peridot and amethyst over here, and then you see a few others that are being built in the workshop.
They're so fabulous. They're so they have the element of fun to them, don't they? It looks like whoever designed these really just had the time of their life, mixing up these unexpected colors and shapes and everything.
Absolutely. They're super flexible and easy to wear.
They're very comfortable to wear. I've tried one.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the pearl one is super popular. I think more than any other, we produce like a lot of pearl ones, and they just sell every time they come out of the workshop, which is great. I love the sort of crazy combination too of these with, like, you feel like, oh, almost that's too many different colors, but somehow it works together.
Yeah, it just works, doesn't it? Yeah. I think, not few jewelers would be so daring as to use that combination. So
right.
Thank God that someone does.
Yes. This is a great shot too. Just, look at how heavily patterned and colorful this model is, but she's pulling it off with that bracelet.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then another piece that really embodies almost everything that we've talked about can kind of be encapsulated within the totems. So I feel like that's a great piece that we have to talk about. I wanted to show some drawings that show different designs. Each of these sections, if a person owned two totems, you could just wear the top section, you could swap the middle sections. You've got all these different options of sort of how they can go together.
You could wear them as pins, couldn't you, as brooches?
Yes, we've got a few in our museum collection that you've got the little pendant section here to wear it on the chain or the cord or the wire, but then like back here on the back of the top section would be a little like pins fitting, so you could wear it on a lapel if you wanted. Yeah,
they're the perfect canvas for David Webb to show his skill at all those things: color, carving, boldness. It's just like an imaginative free for all,
Exactly. And I love seeing a totem with three and then thinking, if you moved this bottom one up here and you just had two, like how great to have this like lapis and coral mini pendant, mini totem.
When were they first created?
They're first created in the early 70s. They're sort of this groovy pendant that you could, manipulate in all these different ways, which really worked for people at that time. And you've seen it on a wire, you've seen it on a chain. I love this sort of stone embellished chain here. And then here's Nicole Richie on the red carpet wearing it with just a leather cord, and it's super cool.
Very cool. They look so modern.
Super modern. We've done ad campaigns with them. I know Stelline's a big fan of them. She mentions them as one of her jewelry holy grails, which I absolutely agree with.
It would be interesting to have. I love it. The rock crystal there too. I mean, it gives it another feeling, doesn't it? To mix it with the clear, transparent stone.
Exactly. And once again, we've mentioned this, but the enamel sort of highlight, like here you've got the black enamel outline, here you've got a white enamel outline, and everyone look at this section here, and I'm just going to flip back to Amy Adams. Here it is in lapis and white enamel. Sort of a bigger scale, but it's the same like shape and sort of design motif, just done in a different way.
Must be fun things to create.
Yeah, it's sort of like, if we come across an interesting piece of carved jade and maybe it won't work for a ring or something, it's always like, let's put it in a totem. Like that's the perfect, interesting, unique stone to put in a totem. Here's a little.
Do people ever request their own sort of color combinations for these?
Ooh, good question. Yes, we have done custom totems in the past, and that's always fun to work with someone to figure out exactly what it is that they want to come across.
What is that brown stone?
I'll go back. Yeah, this is Tiger's Eye.
Oh, it's Tiger's Eye.
Super groovy stone.
Another great hard stone than the.
Yep, here it is on the bottom as well. You've got amethyst, lapis, and a Tiger's Eye section there.
Another great combo.
Really great. So we didn't want to end this talk without like sort of having a catch-all category, I suppose, because there's so many different gemstones we use, so many different hard stones. We wanted to talk about the most like important ones or the most sort of well-known ones. And we absolutely want to talk about like big cocktail rings that really, you can pack a lot of color into a small ring, a small area that is a ring. I love these shots. I know you love the boot picture.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
I love I'm wearing that whole outfit right now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially 10 weeks or whatever in lockdown.
Exactly. Like just sitting on your couch in a big fur coat sounds really nice.
But here, I mean, it's all about the volume and contrast, and I mean, and then you come to black and white with the zebra.
Mm-hmm.
What a fantastic front cover that is.
Yeah. And we've certainly talked a little bit about like enamel's importance as like an accent, but you can have enamel pieces that are all about color and patterning, the boldness of the typography, the makeup, the ring. That's an Irving Penn shot when Diana Vreeland had just transitioned to Vogue. It's super iconic from the 60s, I feel like.
And the typography and the eye and the ring all comes together.
Yeah. Azure Malachite is such an important stone for us too. We didn't have like a full section built out to it, but I can't not mention it. So here it is.
Yeah, I love Azure Malachite.
I don't feel like any other jeweler really uses it aside from us.
I think it's beautiful. I did feature it recently in the magazine, so I think it's really, again, I think just because I clearly I love color combinations, so
yeah,
it's a great one for that.
And here's a little ode to Tiger's Eye. We sort of mentioned it earlier, but I mean, it goes great with all these other important stones too, like turquoise. Here it is. We've done these same, we call these the XO earrings and the X necklace. And we've done this in a few different colorways with Tiger's Eye and lapis, Tiger's Eye and turquoise. It's always a great look. The big ending is, of course, Rihanna with these earrings that I mean, as you can see, they're huge earrings. They're definitely shoulder dusters, as we call them. I think when the stylist was picking out pieces, they were asking for turquoise because she's wearing this sort of hot pink dress that you can like see matches her lipstick perfectly. And I wouldn't necessarily call these turquoise earrings. They've got all these different stones going on with fire opal in the middle, amethyst, emerald, great diamonds. But it's just like the powerful combination of it all together that really like was perfect.
So the stylist just knew that that's the ones they wanted.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. They had options sent, but this is the one that just spoke to them. And I feel like, it's
Perfect
just,
choice.
yeah, the perfect powerful combination. You think about Alice and Janney earlier on, like it's like throw everything on the wall, see what sticks, and it's going to be like a really powerful combination. So
yeah, it's all about making that impact, isn't it? And they certainly do that.
right.
And why mix color in her rest of her outfit when you've got all of that in a pair of earrings?
Definitely. And you can only just sort of see it, but it's a white enamel ring with a huge aquamarine that she's also wearing, and it fits with the turquoise. Everything sort of goes together in a great way.
Delicious.
So on that note, that is the end of our prepared slides, but we have garnered some great audience questions, so let's dive into that. Let's see. Rachel, what is your opinion on the fine jewelry market for an independent fine jewelry brand moving forward post-pandemic? That's a deep question. What do you think will change, and do you think a new jewelry era will come to fruition? Good question.
That is a good question. I've been speaking to a lot of independent designers through this, and we're not under any illusion that it's not going to be tough in the coming months and years, because people are going to be suffering all over the place and have less money to spend. But what I thought has been really interesting is the amount of jewellers that have said to me they've had more personal inquiries over these last few months than they've ever had before. Whether that's from someone who has been meaning to buy something and never had the time before, or people who haven't been spending money on their daily coffees and train ticket or whatever, and they want to buy something that is meaningful to them, and that authenticity of the jeweler that they're speaking to really speaks to them. So I think every cloud has a silver lining, and like I said, I don't think it's going to be easy, but I do think there's going to be some great things that come out of this.
I agree.
And sustainability too. I think that's a massive topic that the jewelry world is already grappling with, but I think what's been happening will just keep pushing that whole conversation forward as well.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for a lot of experimentation, I feel like.
Yeah.
The way that the fashion industry is sort of scrapping the typical fashion calendar of all these runway shows, like you can kind of start fresh in a way if you want.
The advantage I think that jewelers have over fashion industry, the disadvantage we have is that the raw materials are so expensive, but the advantage you have is that these creations are for life. They're not seasonal, they're for the long term. So I think that is a great thing, and people want to, if they have a bit of money, they want to have something that lasts them. They don't want the sort of changing season outfit, or they want something that they can wear for the long term.
Right. Definitely.
And also I think being at home is as frustrating as it's been, and will give a lot of designers a sort of creative reset, and there'll be some amazing things that we see next year.
Very true.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. How many of David Webb's pieces incorporate past materials, such as the coral you mentioned? Is Jade also part of the archives? Yes, Jade is also part of the archives. As I mentioned earlier, we have like an intense stone room that has a drawer filled with all these different carved pieces that David Webb collected. But we also, like, the joy of going through the paper archive and the sketches is being able to see things that individual clients would bring in to have made as special commissions. So you've got, like, I've seen great huge necklaces with all these different amethyst beads, and it's all based around, someone had like an Olmec, like a carved ancient jade from Mesoamerica or something that they collected on their trip to Mexico that they were having set in a piece. If you have our David Webb book, there's a few examples of things like that in there to see those truly antique pieces. I don't think he ever used anything like ancient Roman or anything. There are a few coin pieces that he did. There were some ancient Roman objects that he made, like this little, like a torso that had been broken that he then set with gold and turned it into like a desk object. It's kind of fun stuff. Let's see. This is a good question. When do you choose to do such colorful and big jewelry? Does the color of the gemstone come first, or is it the design? I feel like we base everything off of the design first. You know, we have the David Webb archive. We're strict and attentive to making sure everything has David Webb DNA every time we make something new. I think that we can find great stones and great colorful, you know, carved objects or whatever they are, and sort of mesh them together to say, oh, this is the perfect colorful piece to go in this design that we have. Then we can sort of make them marry in the perfect way. How do you feel like you see that out there in the world? Do you think other jewelers do that, Rachel, or
what, working with the design first? I think it's very personal thing, and some people start with the stone and some people start with the design. I mean, good stones are hard to come by, so I know for sure some designers feel like they have to find that stone first before they can proceed. But I think the great thing about David Webb is that you've got so much choice, right? If you're unable to find a particular stone, then you'll use something else, because you're so creative with that, and you're able to pull from so many different, you know, such a wide palette. One stone I was thinking, I can't think I've seen much, is malachite in David Webb, which is another hard stone that's part of that group. Is that
right there? Well, let me flip back. There was, I mean, it's a small mention, I suppose, but this totem has a malachite ring right here around the fire opal. I wouldn't say I've seen a ton of malachite in the historic archives. It's sort of a brittle stone, you know, it can break really easily. We've tried a few different things recently with it. Like I've seen a link bracelet that had some malachite set into it, but you're right, it's not something that we use a ton of.
Are there some stones that David Webb used that are really hard to source today?
He used a lot of spinel, and had a great collection of like those juicy carved antique spinel that you literally just can't get anymore, that you see in museums these days. I don't think I have a slide of it in this presentation, but we have a piece that has some of those stones, like 4 different big carved spinel on the necklace, and they're just like out of this world. I feel like you'd be hard pressed to source anything like that these days.
Yeah, I think everyone's caught on to the beauty of spinel, haven't they? Unfortunately.
Someone else, I mean, you know, we're talking about malachite and sort of the scarcity of its usage throughout David Webb. Someone had asked whether David Webb had any stones he didn't like that he would never use. And I wish I knew that sort of like colloquial, you know, like David Webb writes in his diary, I hate malachite. You know, we don't have that sort of information. I wish. I'm sure there's stones that he shied away from. Like you don't see a ton of chalcedony or anything like that. There's a lot of black onyx, a lot of green onyx. This is green onyx here in this sort of.
I feel you don't see much green onyx generally, so it's beautiful to see because it has a gorgeous quality to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really translucent. It's really like a clean sort of looking stone. I'm just going to flip back to our end slide there. Oh, here's a question for you. Rachel, when was the last time you bought yourself a piece of jewelry?
Well, talking of buying something from a, you know, that feels meaningful, I've just decided to buy a, I'm trying to think what stone it is. Oh, my mind's gone blank. Anyway, a scarab ring from a jeweler called Vito, who is based in Athens.
Cool.
And I've been eyeing it up for a long time, but I've decided since I didn't go skiing, I can put some of the money towards.
Oh, I feel that.
From someone I love very dearly.
That's the best way to use a refund that I've ever heard of. So good. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like we really got a good dose of vibrant color. We needed that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. If you have any further questions, feel free to message either of us on Instagram. Visit David Webb's website. You can find out more about coral. You can find out all about these stones and different stories that are all over our webpage. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye.